Thank you, Richard. So guys, we're going to kick things off. The first session that we're going to have this morning is going to be looking at innovating to electrify the world's most popular truck. And we're going to have Joan Michelson, who's the host and contributor for the Electric Ladies podcast and Forbes. And she's going to be speaking with Linda Zhang, Chief Engineer for the F-150 at Ford. Let's put our hands together.
Good morning. Is anybody there? Hello? Do you need more coffee? Like, hello, good morning. Thank you. Okay, I have two mics, good, in case we have a backup. I'm Joan Michelson. I'm host of Electric Ladies podcast. I write for Forbes as well. I am thrilled to be interviewing Linda Zhang of Ford. Full disclosure, my episode this morning is with her colleague, Susie Deering, who is Chief Marketing Officer of Ford. So if you go to Electric Ladies podcast, you could listen to that too. The Ford F-150 Lightning really personifies mobility reimagined. It's the best-selling truck in the United States by a long shot. It's kind of a macho image. It really shows the evolution of the electric vehicle, of vehicles, period. And so I want to talk to Linda today, and I'll tell you a little bit about her first, but I want to talk to Linda today about how she did this, how the team did this, people, parts, processes, and see what we can learn to both increase, or develop better electric vehicles that sell more, but also change who buys them. Because electric vehicles, as we all know in this room, are only 4.6% of the EV market, the automobile market. And so we really want to advance that and increase that, and we can learn a lot of lessons, I'm sure, from Linda. So Linda is an engineer by training. She has spent about 26 years at Ford in many aspects of the business. She has a degree in electrical engineering and computer science and an MBA, which is a really good combination for this truck, and all from University of Michigan. So, Linda, what?
Go blue.
Yeah. It's good to know we have a fan club for the University of Michigan in this room. I'm not surprised with an auto sector, right? So let's start at the beginning. I mean, as the play Hamilton would say, take us into the room where it happened. How do you start developing an F-150 electric version? Did you start with, we need an electric truck, or did you start with, we're going to completely reimagine the F-150? And kind of take us through your decision-making process.
Yeah, definitely. I can do that. Thanks, Joan. You know, you said a lot of really important things there earlier about reimagining what electrification can bring to a truck. And that's where I do think, you know, at Ford, especially with the strategy, it's really surrounds how do we help customers transition to electrification, because there's so many benefits to it, not just at the customer level, but at the corporate level, and also from a sustainability level for the planet. So it was really around how do we take this already iconic vehicle, right? F-Series is 45 years sales leadership and best-selling truck with 17 million units on the road as of 2020. And how do we take that, something that Americans love, and give them the traditional things that they love, but also weaving in innovation to take it and take the truck to the future. So we talk to customers, right? We talk to customers to try to understand what it is about the truck traditionally that they need for work, for recreational fun, just for transportation from A to B. And then on top of that, what are some of the things that we can take and add value, right? Providing them additional, this and concept, this extra value concept of why would they now go from a gas truck they already love, but transition into a new technology.
So let me just pause you for a moment. So you started with, what do they need in a truck? By the way, I'm not having I don't have a time clock, so somebody's going to have to keep time for me, if that's helpful. Or you'll just tell me when I need to shut up, right? Does that work? Okay, good. Did you start with here's what they need in a truck? Did you go and talk to F-150 current buyers? Did you start with where did they, and then what do they wish they had in the truck that they don't have?
We talk to all customers. So we talk to truck customers, right? Because part of it is this is such a big population of customers that we want to evolve into an electric. So of course we talk to them. But we also talk to customers who weren't truck owners, but may have wanted to be and didn't go there for whatever reason that might be. And those would be pain points that then we'd have to try to address, right? And actually, what came out of this is really the building blocks for how we came up on this truck. One of the first things we heard is from a customer perspective, it has to be truck first because they picked the truck for a certain utility, and that utility has to be there. That full 5.5-foot box, that capability to tow, haul, whatever it might be, go off-road, right? All of those still need to be there. But in addition to that, we could bring in so many new elements for electrification that either fixes the pain point that they had or they didn't even know they had. So, for example, now with a fully battery electric vehicle, the battery's on the bottom, basically between the wheel axles. And with that, you don't have an engine. So this whole compartment is opened up for a pain point that we can solve now, right? Which is dry lockable storage. Customers for trucks.
That's the FRUC, as I recall?
That's the Mega Power Front. Yes, front trunk.
Be careful how you say that one.
But customers opted for the truck because they wanted the utility of the bed. And with that, they gave up their trunk, which is a dry lockable storage that a car or SUV would have. But now we're able to give them the best of both worlds, right? Bringing that tradition of a truck, but also giving them something new, this extra value that they didn't have before. And then similarly, as we think about electrification, particularly with power and energy, how do we use this truck now with the giant battery underneath as a mobile generator, right? Whether it's on the go for Pro Power on board, so they can power up anything they want at a tailgate, job site, off in the woods, wherever they are, or using it as a backup generator for their entire home ecosystem in a power outage. And
I wonder if anybody in Florida has one right now. They could use it in helping with the hurricane.
Right, and even here in Texas and out in California, there's been a lot of power outages recently where this truck would have really been, monumental in a way in terms of helping customers with, life.
How did you determine the range? My understanding is standard range is 230 miles per charge, and then you can amp it up, if you will, to get the 300-mile range. How did you think about range, and how did you target range, and how did that decision play into the design and the engineering of the car, of the truck?
Yeah, no, that's a really important attribute, is the range. And the way that we came about it is for the standard range battery, which is more of a commercial use. We talk to our commercial customers to understand their routes and help them plan around what it is that they need this vehicle to do, right? Again, going back to it as almost like a tool. Commercial customers, especially those that are running businesses, don't want to pay for more raw materials, battery materials than they need. So we sized it basically just for them. And one of the great things about this truck is that it's digital. So one of the things that we can do is, as we increase range with whatever capabilities that we're able to find, we can go ahead and give that to the customer. So that 230 that you mentioned is now 240 with just some software updates.
So let's talk about that.
And then similarly, on the extended range that you mentioned, that is more of a retail application. And what we found was 300 was the magic number. And in our case, we were able to deliver 320, a fairly efficient vehicle at that too.
So you mentioned the software update. So talk about the telematics for a minute, because that's a whole nother set of decisions, right, and processes. So how did you decide which telematics to put in, and this is an industry group. We want to get down and dirty, right? So talk about how you made those choices.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different levels to it. From a commercial perspective, our pro customers do get a lot of really great telematics that help them analyze the truck and understand what it is that they're working with on a regular basis. And that will definitely help them improve their business along the way. From a retail perspective, some of the technologies that we put in was really around convenience. Being able to give them Blue Cruise, being able to then, see some of the connectivity of their vehicle and understand how customers are using their vehicle, so that we can focus our efforts on improving the vehicle in specific areas. How they charge, for example, and how they drive. What features are they using? Those are the type of things that we did focus on to try to give our customer this digital but also advanced kind of experience.
So I have 800 questions going through my head, but I'm going to limit them, and I'm sure the audience would as well. You'd probably be bombarded if you didn't have to leave right away. You mentioned earlier the sustainability aspect of it. Obviously, it's an electric truck. So I want to kind of tie two things together here, because we also, as we all know in this room, we're dealing with huge supply chain issues. And that plays into the supply of lithium-ion batteries, of lithium for the lithium-ion batteries. But it also, so if you can sort of talk about, how you're dealing with the supply chain problems, and chips, lithium-ion, lithium, et cetera. And also how those decisions were made to reflect the fact that Bill Ford, sustainability is a huge issue at Ford. Bill Ford has been professing this for decades, well before anybody else was really listening. So how did you make those decisions about the parts and where you got them from, and to both reduce the carbon footprint but also address the supply chain?
Yeah, there's a lot in that. So I'll try to break it down a bit. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Bill Ford has been talking about sustainability and about responsible sourcing, actually, too, for quite a while now, even before it was really a popular thing to talk about. So we've always had really wonderful support all the way from the top of the house on the F-150 Lightning, just because we're literally electrifying and making a sustainable product.
It's a risk. I mean, it's a risk.
Well, it is. It's definitely a big bet, right? Because when we electrify such an iconic vehicle, something that's so publicly loved, you have to do it right in a way. And I think that's why we went with this extra value proposition, where we're giving the customers everything they already love about the truck, but adding additional features that people also love. But when it comes to the supply chain, which is part of your question as well, a lot of it really comes down to what's changed in the last few years with COVID, and also with the Ukraine war. Supply chain is very delicate, is what we found. So a lot of what we've done at the company previously was really around purchasing and around fulfillment. And now that's become a little bit more of a sophisticated balance. So it takes a great team and really a specialized team in a way, to be able to go in and take a look at that slightly differently, with a different lens.
So explain that a little bit. I mean, what do you mean, what kind of different lens?
Well, part of it is just the overall delicacy of the supply chain itself, right? So how do you continue to improve the technology while at the same time ensuring that there's quality, and also reduce cost to be able to pass on to the customer? So did you
stop getting certain parts from certain areas and get them more locally, or at least within the U.S., that you were getting overseas before? I mean, can you get a little more specific?
I can't get super specific on everything else, but I can tell you for Lightning, those were things that we thought through, and how important it was for it to be built here and manufactured here in the U.S. So Lightning is produced right in Detroit, Dearborn, Michigan. Our battery plant and our motors plant are really just down the street at Rawsonville and at Van Dyke, both in Michigan. A lot of our commodities from a supply base are also locally within that area, and our actual battery chemistry and all the work that's being done to make the arrays is down in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. So those are definitely things that we thought through in terms of trying to make sure that we localized as much as we can, because part of what we're really proud about is the fact that this is a truck, an American truck, and we want it to be localized in America.
And it also helps reduce the carbon footprint. So when you're looking at the parts of the truck, are you using like recycled steel? How did you reduce the carbon footprint of the actual parts of the truck? So that's good. You don't have the shipping costs of parts moving in from other parts of the world as much. But did you actually choose which materials to go into the truck? I mean, I remember, forgot about this, several years ago I interviewed a woman, Carol Cordich, whose job is to make the interior of Fords with sustainable materials. And I started the story by saying, the next time you get into a car, you might be sitting on recycled water bottles. And there was like something about mushrooms in some of the dashboards and stuff. So were you making those kinds of decisions, or how did you reduce the carbon footprint of the actual truck, the parts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a company, we really value sustainability all the way down to recycling, right? There's, our seats, for example, just like you mentioned, are using a lot of recycled material. Some of our products are basically produced by recycling fishing nets out in, and getting those in vehicles. So, there's definitely a lot of that aspect of things. But I think also importantly is this, from a manufacturing perspective, right? Having this at the Rouge site is actually really great, because for the Dearborn truck plant, we have, the grass roof on top, which really works to recycle the water and help produce, oxygen back into the atmosphere. Similarly, at the Rouge Electric factory right next door to it, that facility was designed to be carbon neutral. So,
cool. Circular economy. Are you recycling the steel that is and the parts that are left over of the waste material as well?
We try to recycle everything we can, right? From not just a sustainability perspective, but also from a cost perspective. Yeah. Being able to put that back into the system and get value out of that rather than sending it to the scrapyard.
So when I interviewed Susie Deering, she told me that 76% of the I think she told me this, that 76% of the drivers or the buyers of the F-150 Lightning are new buyers. So what can you share with us that we can learn from the way the truck is designed and marketed, et cetera, to help broaden the adoption of electric vehicles by more types of people and more people in general? And we'll set the need for charging aside for the moment, but just in terms of the design, the engineering, and the marketing of this as an electric vehicle. Obviously, we need to amp this up, and Ford and GM and other automakers are going all electric, so you need it from a cost and revenue perspective, right? So what can we learn from that, from your experience?
Yeah, and it's still very early days for our customers, but what we have seen is about half of our customers for Lightning specifically are new to truck, right? Going back to kind of what we talked about earlier, that it's not just truck customers, but also customers that really wish they had a truck, but that, they now are like, I can do this because it solves so many pain points and does so much more in terms of the functionality of this vehicle. So half of them are about new to truck. about 2/3 of them are new to EV. And as you said, 76% or 3/4 of them about is new to Ford. And we're really excited about being able to bring this new customer set into Ford and showing, and, basically including them as part of our family. It's a really exciting time.
But what can we learn from your experience to help all of us increase the adoption and expedite sell more electric vehicles and more quickly?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes back to kind of our basic principles at the beginning of listening to customers, right? Listening to them in terms of what it is that they want. For this truck, it was very much about being able to keep with the traditions of the truck, even down to the appearance side of things, right? Making it look like a truck. We heard from customers that literally said, it needs to be a truck first. If my 5-year-old drew it, it needs to look like a truck. So, keeping with those traditions and meeting them halfway in a way, but then also bringing this very, very new aspect and ground up design from the bottom and from the underpinnings of vehicle to give them that new propulsion, right? With the battery, the motors, the all new rear independent suspension, which is also a truck first, right? To give it that elevated ride. Those are some of the things that we've done while adding on these features that are just going to be, in a way, irresistible from an electrification perspective and really shows the positives, right? What we've tried to do with this truck is really bring out the best of both, bringing out the best of a truck and bringing out the best of an electric vehicle. And how can that help our customers? And I think that's really what it comes down to is, listening to the customers and giving them everything they wanted about a vehicle and more.
Yeah, listening is listening even for the things that you might reflexively tune out. I mean, we say listen to the customer all the time, but oftentimes we don't actually really listen to them, right? So, in closing, talk about what was your biggest challenge and where do you go from here? Like, when you were developing and engineering and designing this truck, what was your biggest struggle that kept you up at night, or what was the hardest nut to crack?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely two fronts to the challenges. The first one we knew right off the bat is just, can an EV be tough? Right, and the customer acceptance of an EV truck. So we really had to help overcome that with showing, not just telling, and being able to show that the truck can tow, the truck can go off-road, the truck can do just about anything you want a truck to do plus more. And then secondly, making sure that we had the right level of technology in the vehicle so that we can do all of this credibly, right? F-Series is built on Built Ford Tough, and this Lightning is no different. We go through the same grueling tests that every F-Series goes through, and that demonstration of toughness was one of the things that we needed to be able to move along, both from the engineering capability perspective, but then also from that customer perspective. And now that we have this vehicle out, I think, where do we go from here is actually a really exciting space because of the fact that it's a digital product, right? We have so much technology built in, but at the same point, you can almost think of it as an iPad on wheels, where with over-the-air updates and with new functionalities coming to it, it's just going to get better with time. So I think that aspect of it is really exciting for me in terms of how can we continue to deliver more value for our customers.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda Zhang, Chief Engineer of the Lightning F-150. By the way, thank you. There are some trucks here, in case you didn't see them, out in front. I should say here. I have a terrible sense of direction, so it's in front of the Palmer Center, I think, where you can actually, you can't test drive them, sorry about that, because they belong to the city of Austin, but you can look and touch and see and do everything but drive it, okay? So thank you again. I'm Joan Michelson, Electric Ladies Podcast, and Forbes, and Linda Zhang of Ford. We look forward to seeing you around the conference. Take care. Enjoy the conference.